Hello people, I'm Myra and I will tell you how I discovered that my husband Jared and sister Lyra were fooling me. This is a long story, so please bear with me. I will try to keep things as short as possible so that you don't get bored. It's just that now that everything has been settled, I really want to share my story with someone. I thought that this would be the best place to vent. My sister Lyra and I are completely different. She is the more beautiful and outgoing kind, while I am her total opposite. We grew up with somewhat of a difficult relationship because my sister had a habit of picking on me. She also hated that I sometimes tended to correct her bad behavior. She actually had a habit of using people for her own benefit, which I and my parents were trying to correct. She's also very spoiled and thinks that her good looks are enough to let her have a good life. As luck would have it, she managed to find a rather rich man named Connor. Connor and Lyra fell in love, which I knew was one-sided. My sister didn't love him at all and only trapped him for money. I am not someone who supports this kind of behavior, so I decided to speak up and say, "What you are doing with Connor is not okay, Lyra. You know you are not in love with him. You are only marrying him for money." "Mind your own business, Myra. No one cares about your stupid morals. You were just jealous that I landed a rich husband like I always wanted." "No, I am not jealous, Lyra. You are the one who's being evil here. I am pretty happy with my life since I married my husband Jared for love." "Well, you take a lot of pride in your relationship, don't you, dear sister? One of these days that perfect man of yours will cheat on you, and then we will see who comes out on top." Lyra had always spoken to me like that. She never cared about anyone other than herself. I had warned her multiple times that if she didn't marry for love, there would be a time when her marriage would fail. Turns out she was wishing those things on me because I didn't agree with her ways. I knew for a fact that Lyra wasn't a good woman and had doubts that she was cheating on Connor. But since I had no proof of the matter, I couldn't do or say anything. At the end of the day, I let my sister lead whatever life she wanted with Connor, while I enjoyed my own marriage with the love of my life, Jared. However, no one had warned me that things would change drastically in the future. A few years into my marriage, something terrible happened. This was at the time when Jared and I were planning to have a child. By that point, we were already having a steady marriage and it felt right to take the next step. Lyra was also surprisingly happy in her marriage, so I wasn't prepared for what was to come. I came across Jared's secret completely by chance. I was cleaning Jared's work desk because it had been a mess for a while. I was having an off day from work, so I decided to go for it. While I was arranging his desk, I hadn't expected to find this one file that was hidden way behind the cabinet. I was curious about why the file was stored so far behind when it looked relatively new. I opened it to check what it was about and also to make sure that I had it stored in the right place. You can only imagine my surprise when I found out that the files contained papers saying that my husband had been terminated from his job. I was hit with those documents out of the blue. I read through them rather thoroughly just to make sure that I wasn't making a mistake. After reading them like 5 times, there was no doubt that Jared was fired from his job. But he never mentioned this to me and was even leaving for work every day. This was extremely confusing. I was also hurt by the fact that he never bothered to tell me about his termination. I quickly took out my phone and texted Jared to see where he was. He sent back normal text saying that he was at work. I texted, "Where are you, Jared? Are you still at work?" "Yes, I am still at work. What's wrong, Myra?" "Oh, it's nothing. Just wanted to check in with you. When will you be back?" As soon as the boss lets me, Myra. I'll try and come early if you want, but can't make promises. Okay, see you soon. At that point, I decided it was time to follow my husband and take note of his whereabouts. Now, listen, my mind didn't jump to cheating right away. In fact, I was just thinking that maybe Jared was embarrassed to tell me that he had lost his job and was spending his time driving around or something. I have seen it happen on TV and thought it might be a reasonable explanation in my case as well. Yes, guys, I was delusional. What can I say? Who wants to suspect their own husband of cheating out of all things? I didn't want to think that my husband was cheating on me or something worse, so I tricked my brain into thinking that he was probably just embarrassed about the termination and was hiding out. I can't tell you exactly why I decided to drive around and follow my husband. On one hand, I was super curious about what he was up to. On the other hand, maybe my mind was refusing to accept that my husband was an innocent man. I can tell you that my insides were a mess because I could sense something wrong. So after he supposedly left for work, I waited a little and followed his car by calling a taxi. Since I didn't take my car, Jared didn't notice anything strange. I had my taxi driver drive a long way following my husband. I was really confused about where he was going because we had reached the outskirts of our city, and that's when Jared pulled up to the parking lot of a park. He casually scanned his surroundings, looking out for people, and then left his car. I immediately pulled out my phone and texted him. Hey, Jared, are you at work? I was thinking of stopping by with lunch. I will make something special for you today. I don't think that would be a good idea, Myra. I have a lot of work to do, so I won't be able to come out to meet you. I will have something from the cafeteria. But can't you come out and see me for even a few minutes? Surely they would allow that much. Look, Myra, I have a lot of work today, and this conversation is getting nowhere. I don't know why you're being so stubborn. I will be home in the evening anyway, then maybe we can make dinner together. Okay. If you are that busy, I won't drop by. Make sure you have lunch, though. I will have lunch, Myra. Don't worry about me. Have a good day. So Jared was still lying and pretending that everything was okay. After sitting in the back of the taxi for a few minutes, I got out and followed my husband. I was clever enough to be secretive so that Jared wouldn't catch me easily. I walked around the park looking for him and dreading the worst. My instincts were right, of course. But the sight that greeted me was nothing short of shocking. I found Jared, and I also found my supposedly ill sister at the park. They were having a little picnic on a blanket. What knocked the breath out of me was the fact that they were actually behaving like a couple. They were hugging and even kissing from time to time. The sight made me want to vomit. Without much thinking, I got out my phone and snapped a few pictures of them in their lovey-dovey positions. Then I fled the scene and went home after calling a cab. Back home, I was shaking and crying as I tried to make sense of the situation. I couldn't believe that my husband was cheating on me, and his affair partner was none other than my own sister. The sister who was supposed to be very ill. All of it just wasn't making any sense in my head. I was devastated and confused about what was going on. I knew confronting Jared right away wouldn't be a good idea, so I gathered myself and waited for him to return so that I could dig a little more. I got that chance when he stepped into the shower without his phone. I quickly opened his phone and went to check his messaging apps. Sure enough, I found plenty of conversations like these. How about we meet tomorrow at the hotel in the next town? I can pick you up from wherever you want. My God, Jared. Looks like you have become obsessed with me. I wonder what my dear sister has done to make you so uninterested in her. Your sister is fine, but, well, she's pretty boring. She doesn't even hold a candle to you, Lyra. You were just so much better. I'm so jealous of Connor. You have no reason to be jealous of him, Jared. You were sleeping with his wife and using his money as well. I'm pretty sure you were the winner here. Guys, that was the second time that day that I wanted to vomit from disgust. The betrayal was just too much to handle. I couldn't believe what I was even reading. The way Lyra and Jared were talking about me and Connor was just plain disgusting. Who talks about their spouse like that with her affair partners? My hands were shaking as I continued to read their conversations. They said, I wish you would just leave him and run away with me. I hate going home to my wife now. You know, we can't do that, Jared. You don't have a job right now, so you can't support me. I don't have a job either and never plan on getting one. But won't you get a big settlement in a divorce? I'm sure that will be enough to last us a while. After that, I can get a job. No, that won't work, Jared. Connor gives me the lifestyle that you can never give me. Besides, Connor made me sign a prenup, so in case we divorce, I won't get much anyway. Surely he gives you a lot of money as an allowance. Otherwise, how did you manage to give me so much money and also spend some on us? Oh, please, Jared. Connor doesn't give me free rein to all of his money. I literally had to fake an illness to get Connor to give me more money. That's how I'm giving you money, so that you can fool my sister into thinking that you still have a job. Guys, at that point, I finally understood why I was never able to suspect that Jared had lost his job. You see, he was still sending his assigned share of bills to our joint bank account every month. There wasn't a cent missing from it. We keep our personal accounts private, so it's not like I can see where he's getting that money from. Turns out my sister was faking her illness to get more money from her husband. Then she was giving Jared that money to fool me into thinking everything was all right. The conversation didn't just end there. It continued, and Jared said, Yeah, I know you've been faking your illness for our benefit, but how long will we continue this charade? As long as possible, Jared. It's nice to know that we are fooling our spouses and having a good time. Things are going as good as they should. You have money without having a job, and I got to take away my sister's one true love. You know, I find my wife boring now, so I decided to start this affair with you. I must admit that the money was also a motivation, but why did you cheat? I thought you loved Connor. Believe me, Jared, I still love my husband to some extent. He is rich, handsome, and literally every woman's dream. But there's no fun in my marriage anymore. Sneaking around with my sister's husband is way more fun. I don't understand why you're doing this, though. What do you even have against Myra? Myra always ridiculed me for being a gold digger. She had a lot of pride because she married for love. Well, joke's on her, since her love is with me now. So there was it, guys. My husband cheated on me because he thought I was boring. He thought that my sister was way better than me and was even giving him money. As for my sister, well, she just wanted to get back at me for calling her a gold digger, which she definitely was. Lyra was just trying to get revenge and ended up destroying my marriage in the process. From what I read next, it became clear to me that neither of them were in love with each other. The affair was there because of the thrill and fun. Neither of those two cheaters were keen on ending their marriage because they were too comfortable in it. Their arrangement was working well for them, and they hadn't expected to get caught. My body was literally wanting to throw up from what I read, but I managed to control myself and took pictures of their conversation on my phone. Then, before Jared could return from the shower, I quickly set down his phone and pretended that nothing had happened. Once he went to get dressed, I locked myself in the bathroom, turned on the shower, and cried my eyes out. I couldn't accept the fact that my marriage was falling apart because of my own sister. I wasn't stupid enough to just blame my sister. I knew that my husband shared the equal blame. He was definitely after Lyra for her money and maybe her looks. I cannot deny the fact that she is beautiful and more outgoing than me. The entire night I lay in bed thinking about everything. The nausea was still there, and just thinking about Lyra and Jared together was enough to make me feel sick, but I couldn't avoid thinking about it. I knew at that point that my marriage was over, and so was my relationship with my sister. I wasn't going to stick around and let those two evil people make a fool out of me. I also kept thinking about whether I should tell Connor about my findings. I knew that I would want to know if I was in his situation. I also wasn't in the mood to let my nasty sister continue her marriage when she had blown up my own. So, the next day, after Jared left and I knew Connor would be at work, I texted him and asked him to meet. Connor and I met at a cafe in the next town because I didn't want Jared or Lyra to see us talking. I wanted to tell Connor everything before confronting either of them, so I called Connor and told him not to tell my sister anything. Connor came looking worried and said, "What is this about, Myra? Please tell me your sister is okay. I'm really worried about her, and she isn't telling me much about her illness." "I do want to talk about Lyra's illness, Connor, but don't worry, it's not something bad. She is actually fine." "Oh, thank God, Myra. I was going crazy thinking that something serious had happened to her and she wasn't telling me." It broke me to see Connor so concerned about Lyra. It was true that my sister married him for money, but her husband definitely married her for love. My sister was stupid enough to betray a man like him just to get back at me and have some fun on the way. At that point, I knew for sure that I needed to tell Connor everything. So I said, "Look, Connor, what I'm about to tell you may be shocking to you, but it's all true. I think you should prepare yourself mentally for this. It will change the way you look at Lyra completely." "Oh God, you're really worrying me again, Myra. Just tell me what you want to tell me. I will handle it myself." "My sister has been lying to you about her illness, Connor. She is fine. Nothing has happened to her." I had expected Connor to look shocked, and he did look shocked. I knew he wasn't expecting to hear this from me. He was really worried about his wife's health, and I just told him that she was faking her illness. It was natural for Connor to be shocked and suspicious. I'm pretty sure my sister didn't paint a very nice picture of me to her husband. So when Connor started to look like he didn't believe me, I didn't take it personally. He said, "What are you talking about, Myra?" "It's true, Connor. Lyra is not sick. She has been pretending to be sick so that you would give her money." But this doesn't make any sense, Myra. I gave Lyra a lot of money. Why did she even need that much money in the first place?" "She needed that money so that she could give it to my husband. Connor, Jared and Lyra have been having an affair. I found out yesterday when I followed him and saw that he met up with Lyra at the park." "No, this is impossible. You're lying to me, Myra. My wife can't cheat on me." "I too thought that Jared wouldn't cheat on me, but here we are, Connor." "I still don't believe you. My wife is not like that." "I knew you wouldn't believe my words, Connor, so I brought all the proof with me. You can see them if you want to. Trust me, I'm not lying." I pulled out my phone and showed Connor everything. I got a first-hand show of what I may have looked like when I had discovered the affair. A lot of emotions passed through Connor's face, and each was more heartbreaking than before. He sat there looking at all the proof and went completely silent. I let him digest all the information and waited till he was ready to talk. Connor looked and sounded very defeated when he said, "How did you find out, Myra?" "I came across a file on my husband's work desk when I was cleaning it. Those files said that he had been fired from his job. I got suspicious about what he did every day after he told me he was going to work, so I followed him and found them like this." "So you also saw them with your own eyes?" Yes, Connor, I also saw them with my own eyes. I am sure you will find more such texts if you check her private messages. If you follow her or have her followed, you will see the same things I saw. This is real then. Lyra has been cheating on me. She betrayed me and played me for a fool. Connor was having a hard time accepting everything, and so was I. We talked for a very long time and tried to make sense of the situation. We also discussed our own plans for our marriage now that we knew that our spouses were not loyal to us. We could have gone home and confronted our spouses separately, but we didn't do that. Instead, we planned something together so that we could catch them red-handed and deliver them the punishments for their actions. Connor and I took a few days to get our ducks in a row, and one thing was for sure. We were going to divorce our spouses. What we didn't know was how we would serve them or confront them. We desperately wanted and needed to see the fear in their eyes from getting caught. So we stayed silent at home and plotted together when we could. About 2 weeks later, we had everything prepared. We both stalked our spouses' phones to know that they had planned to meet up at a hotel. Connor and I decided to ambush them there. Jared and Lyra had no idea what was waiting for them when they went to the hotel that day. They were lost in their little illicit relationship and were having fun, as they had said. But Karma was waiting for them just around the corner. Connor and I had booked a room in that same hotel so that we could get access to their room. It was a small place, so we knew exactly in which room they were in. We waited for a while before knocking on their door. When the door opened, we were greeted by a flustered-looking Jared who was shirtless. We didn't have to guess what was going on. Jared now looked really shocked once he saw that Connor and I were at their door. He stammered and said, What are you guys doing here?" "I would ask you that question if I didn't already know what you were up to." "I have no idea what you're talking about, Myra. I had a business meeting here, so I decided to take a quick shower before hitting the conference room." "You had a business meeting, Jared? For what? For the job that you were terminated from 3 months ago? Also, tell us, Jared, when did my wife become a part of your business meeting?" Jared was now stunned into silence while Connor and I smirked at him. We weren't sad anymore. The last 2 weeks were spent reining in our hurt and replacing it with anger. We wanted revenge. We wanted karma to hit Jared and Lyra in full force. Connor and I were in charge now. Jared and Lyra's little game was over. Connor quickly smiled at Jared and shouted, "You can come out now, Lyra. We all know that you're in there." "Who said Lyra's here? No one else is here. I'm here for work. You two have to believe me." "Oh, I see that you're trying to protect my wife now. That's very heroic of you, Jared. However, we both know she's in here. Come out already, Lyra. I even saw you go up with your affair partner when you entered this hotel. There's no use hiding anymore." Lyra now slowly crept up from behind Jared and stood in our view. She had a robe around her and refused to meet our eyes. Connor immediately flared up in anger, and so did I. Connor said, "Care to explain what's going on here, dear wife?" "This is all a misunderstanding, Connor. It's not what you think. I don't think lying about this is a good way to go, dear sister. You sounded very victorious when you proudly declared that you stole the love of my life. Why are you scared now?" "It's not like that at all, Myra. You have to believe us." "Yeah, we can explain everything if you give us a chance. This is not what it looks like, guys. There has been a mistake." "Are you saying that all the texts we found between you two are fake? Are the pictures that my private investigator sent me also fake?" Yes, Connor did hire a private investigator to find more dirt on the two of them. He wanted to have solid proof for both of us since we had planned to divorce our spouses. Jared and Lyra had no idea because they thought they were too clever to be caught. But the power of two spurned spouses triumphed over their evil ways. They were caught for good. Lyra straight up started to cry like a child while Jared tried to hold my hand and make excuses. They said, "We're so sorry, this was just a mistake. We should have ended this affair a long time ago." "Yes, this was all a mistake. It will never happen again. You two should never have had the affair in the first place. And you two seem to have enjoyed your time a lot. From what we have seen so far, you two don't think it was a mistake at all. As for this never happening again, we don't care anymore. You two can have each other." "No, don't say that, Myra. I love you. You're my wife. You're the only one I want." "It sure didn't seem that way when you told my beloved sister how boring I was and how much better she was." "I also read your text, Lyra. Looks like I don't have a sister anymore." No, please, Myra. This was all a mistake. Please just forgive us this time. Connor, why aren't you saying anything?" "I have nothing new to add, Lyra. As Myra said, you two can have your affair as long as you want. We will remove ourselves from the equation. Myra and I have decided to divorce you two for good." "That's right. Enjoy having your affair while taking a look at these divorce papers we drew up for you two." Connor and I threw the divorce papers in their faces and started to leave. Jared and Lyra tried to stop us and ran after us, making a scene. Eventually, we left when the hotel security stopped our spouses from reaching us. Connor and I could hear them begging and pleading for mercy while asking us to hear them out. We swiftly got into our cars and drove off. We didn't go to our own houses next. Connor and I actually drove around and hung out for a while discussing the outcomes of our plan. We knew that Jared and Lyra would be waiting for us at home, and we wanted to avoid that private conversation as long as I could. Connor and I also took this opportunity to inform our family and friends what happened with our respective spouses. As predicted, most of them were furious. The few who didn't believe were supplied proof, after which they changed tunes fast. So word was out and everyone knew what a waste of space Jared and Lyra were. When Connor and I went home, our spouses were waiting for us. Jared looked like he was crying, and he actually started to do that when I entered the house. He begged and cried for mercy, telling me that we could fix this. At one point, he also got angry and started to call me names and told me how I deserved it. But eventually, we circled back to him being guilty and remorseful. I simply informed him that no matter what, we were getting a divorce. A week later, I moved in with Connor because living at the house was becoming too much for me. Jared was constantly in my space and trying to change my mind. It was getting exhausting. Connor was also in the same situation, so he kicked out Lyra and asked me to move in with him. I obliged because I desperately needed to get away from Jared. Lyra threw a tantrum about how I moved into her house while Connor kicked her out. Connor then not so gently reminded her that the house was his and she had no claim to it because of the prenup. Eventually, Connor and I were both able to divorce our spouses. It was easier for Connor because he had a prenup, but mine took a little while until I reminded Jared that we lived in an at-fault state, so it was in his best interest to go for a mutual divorce. My sister tried to get my family on her side and paint me as the bad guy, but that didn't work. She has been forced to take up employment as a waitress because she has nothing, and my parents wouldn't feed her for free. Jared also moved back home because he had no job and no money. He still keeps trying to get back with me, which is hilarious. Anyway, I don't talk to Jared and Lyra anymore. I am happy I was able to destroy their lives by betraying me. I'm happy I was able to destroy their lives for betraying me and ended up getting a friend in Connor as well.